At least 10 years back, I had this notion that, being a chef or being a baker is always looked down upon.
What was the first step when you started your bakery? I'm asking a very detailed question because I know I'm representing a lot of women who are in a small bakery business or thinking of starting up.
My first step was, first I had to go and learn the product myself. My idea was never that I'm going to hire a chef. Only making on order or making your product available to in certain locations in a city is much easier than when you make the product available to multiple locations. People outside, they are surviving on bread. If it was unhealthy, how are they eating bread every day? Why is it being called an unhealthy product in our own country? As a woman, I would always think of it that we'll always get dismissed.
So Suchali, of course, my God, we've been eating your breads. They're amazing क्योंकि पहली बार जब हमने देखा कि इंडिया में भी sourdough available है. But what a journey it has been. So first of all, welcome. We're so happy to have you on Sipping Thoughts. So Suchali, tell us a little bit because you've introduced sourdough in India, but how did this idea come into your mind?
So I was never around the kitchen as a child. I was like baking or cooking was not really my thing, but I always used to love eating bread as a child. So when I grew up and after I finished my college, I was working with Crisil, and just 2 years later, I realized this 9 to 6 or 9 to 9 thing precisely, I would say, because not to be longer working hours was not really my thing. I would just go like a zombie, come back like a zombie, and I was not really enjoying it. And so I would say that it was the dire need to find something which I would enjoy doing myself and I would really wake up for. So I think that was the inception.
How old were you that time?
So I was 23 when I
And,
started thinking about it.
Leaving a career before having a career, was it scary or you had a plan?
I think my journey, even till today, is always been, I would term it as that I always love going with the flow. Even today, I don't have a big plan of what really I want to do. And even then, I just wanted to start with smaller steps. And because in my family, nobody was from a culinary field before. So I was not sure whether how it would work out or how it is because I had no experience and no examples to see.
जब 23 साल के हो और कोई बेकरी शुरू करनी तो what was the if you go back, what was the exact raw thought? Because I am doing Women Listed and then I'm coming across thousands of bakers on the inquiry or list or in my domain, and I feel that they all are staying stuck in small businesses doing bakery from home. So 23-year-old Suchali what was in your mind?
So the 23-year-old me, the most raw thought I had was not that I have to have a business or build a big business, but my thought was that I loved eating something and it was not available in the market, and I wanted to make it available for the people because the product was so good, and why is it not available for our people? That was the most raw thought I had in my mind, and I started from scratch.
They say businesses start from a need when you see the gap in the market.
But tell us the story that you were saying when you went to Europe, and also the thing that bread we always thought was not a healthy thing. मतलब ये नहीं खाना चाहिए.
So when I went to Europe, I saw the different shapes of breads, I would say, because here in India, we've always seen those square loaves of bread. So, to my surprise, it was something very different from me. And back then, I didn't even make so many trips to five-star hotels where we would at least see these different shapes of breads, even if they were not sourdough. So I was really intrigued by the idea, and the people outside, they are surviving on bread. If it was unhealthy, how are they eating bread every day? Why is it being called as a unhealthy product in our own country? So I think all these thoughts really, really kept me going, and I really wanted to find an answer to this.
And what was the first step when you started your bakery? I'm asking a very detailed question because I know I'm representing a lot of women who are in a small bakery business or thinking of starting up.
Yeah. So because I in my head, I knew that what was the type of the product I wanted to create. And because I was not from a bakery background and I was not even sure whether it would work for me, otherwise it would be very easy that I would have told my parents to, get me into any culinary schools, Le Cordon Bleu or anywhere else, spend lakhs of money, live there for 6-7 months and, just enjoy. But I was scared, what if it didn't work? What if I didn't like it? So I didn't want to take such a big risk. And then this I got this idea through Instagram precisely that people do learn through apprenticeships. I saw some examples of some bakers who had done their career shifts. So my first mentor, she was.
So this when you left Crystal then and said, okay, let me go for
Yeah.
an apprentice.
Yeah.
So you were very serious. Huh?
Yeah, I was serious and I got married back then. Like I was married by then. So I would share my thought with my husband a lot and then, he would never dismiss it. He would always take it very seriously. And, as a woman, I would always think of it that, we'll always get dismissed. We'll always, if we will.
So you also had this idea, notion in your head that
I had this preconceived notion that whatever idea I will share with probably my parents or my in-laws or my husband, the first thought will be, and especially because it's the culinary field. Because at least 10 years back, I had
Yeah.
this notion that, being a chef or being a baker is always looked down upon. So I was pretty sure that my idea would be dismissed, but to my surprise, my husband was really happy to hear this, and then he would always ask me more and more about it, and I had no answer to so many things. So I think that's what the beginning of this.
But sometimes it pushes you also to think beyond a normal bakery and just baking it and selling it, because the harder question make you think that this business needs to be scaled, this business needs to be formalized, I need a packaging. So how did it start happening? One after another step, like did you bake first? Did you think of packaging, branding? How?
So my first step was first I had to go and learn the product myself. My idea was never that I'm going to hire a chef or a professional baker and work it out around the person. My idea was that I first want to learn the product myself, how it's made, what exactly is the whole process of making, how is it different from the regular bakery products. So I went for an apprenticeship for 3 months to the US. I learned everything from scratch. I didn't even know how to weigh a gram of flour back then. I could not stand for more than 2 hours at a stretch.
And you said you were not,
I was married.
You're married that.
Yeah.
and you were not a person who was a baker as a
Never.
child.
Yeah. Never. I would never. My mom would bake dry cakes at home once in a blue moon, but still I was never really interested in that field. But I think my major motivation to do this this whole thing was first, like, I had a dire need to not be home. It would जैसे
You never
हिंदी में
wanted to
बोलते
be
हैं
a homemaker.
या हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना खुजली होती है. So I always had this खुजली in me कि मुझे घर नहीं बैठना है. In fact, I would go with my husband to his office in the initial, like, first 1 year just because, and go sleep there because मुझे घर पे नहीं बैठना था. And in this whole journey, he would just be behind me, find your passion. And I'm like, I don't have an answer to my passion. I don't know what's my passion. So बस वो एक खुजली थी कि घर नहीं बैठ.
नहीं, but ये भी बताओ कि you went for a 3-month internship to the US. So you left, I mean, you were married already, and everybody was supportive of this.
Yeah, initially my mother-in-law got very emotional because I was also young. Like, I was 23, so she was like, "Kaise karoge sab kuch? How will you live alone? How will you manage? We will miss you so much." So that little bit of emotions from the caring perspective, that thing happened. But I think they were very, very supportive, and I think my husband said that all you have to lose is the money you spent on going there, right? Because you're doing an apprenticeship. Anyways, you're not getting paid, you're not paying them to learn, so just try your hands on. There's no harm. You have nothing to lose.
So it comes across your husband was the pillar that
Absolutely, even today.
Oh.
wow, nice.
So now you came back from your apprenticeship, then क्या हुआ? Then you said, चलो अब I'm ready.
I came back from my apprenticeship, but I was not ready to face what I was going to get offered in India. We don't have a very organized market here in terms of buying the supplies, buying the tools, buying the raw material, and especially in bulk. So it was a big puzzle. It was a big maze for me to solve. So initial, I would say 6-7 months. I took 6-7 months to figure out how I was going to try my hands on, and I must tell you that whatever I learned in 3 months, none of the recipes worked.
Because the flour was different, the water was different.
Everything was different, and with breads, the climate, the atmosphere, the temperature, the humidity level, it really matters. I didn't know back then that it has so much of importance, but it didn't work. So it took me some time to keep trying. I just started everything all. I mean, I did not hire anybody as soon as I came, or I did not set up a team, or the first thing what most of us would think of is I have to set up a physical space where I can bake. But I didn't do that. First, I wanted to get the product right. If the product was right and as per the standards what I've learned, only then I started.
So were you baking in your own kitchen then, or where were you baking all this?
So I actually bought a semi before I went to the US to learn. I think mindlessly I bought one very very small mixer and one 5-tray oven, and I didn't know anything ABC about the electrical requirements it had. It needed 3-phase or 2-phase. I just mindlessly bought. But then, it had to be installed at home, I thought I would start from home, but the house could not support a 3-phase connection. I think it was a blessing in disguise that I always had to start outside of home. So we rented a.
And as you said that you didn't want to stay at home.
So I think God was listening. So we rented a 200 square feet space, little space, just very, very close to the house. And I just put the oven and the little mixer there, and then started doing my trials from there until I saw that the product was decent enough to be at least so that I can make the product. I can offer the product to be tasted by my own community. I just kept trying.
So what was the
Took me
first
6,
step
7
after trying? How did you launch your business?
As we say, charity begins at home. So whenever I would make my own family taste, they would be like, superb, it's superb. When I knew that the product was really that. In my head, I knew that it was not what I was looking out for. So, but after 6-7 months, then it was slightly decent enough after doing.
So how many
trials
tries,
and-
how many recipes did you go through in 6?
With breads, it's basically what? It's like flour, water, and soap.
Yeah.
It's just 3 ingredients. You have to figure out the right proofing times, the right ratios, how you proof, and how do you play with your temperature, your environment, the water quality. So yeah, it was multiple trials.
And do you think every bread, like your bread or somebody else's bread, would be different? Or it has a very, the base palette is the same?
I think
What I mean to say, what is the distinction or
I feel in the culinary field, in the food field, every chef or every baker bakes their product differently, even if the recipe is the same. Like it can never taste
it's like
different.
maa ka,
हाँ, it's like how we say माँ के हाथ का खाना.
it's
Ingredients वही होते हैं, but
no
it
taste
always
is the
tastes
same.
different. Like an aloo की सब्जी will taste different from my mom versus any other mom. So yes, every baker and every chef has their own thing which they create. वो उन्हीं के हाथ से ही create होता है.
And from friend and family then?
Yeah, so then I at the AGM in our society, so my father-in-law really pushed me that you just bake your products and we'll take it there, so that after the AGM is over, we'll make everybody taste. And I was very small back then, so I used to be very shy. I never used to open up, and I used to be an introvert, and he would be the one going around to people taking the tray, taste it, my daughter-in-law is making. And then at the side, like we were also in the process of deciding our brand name. So I had like 4-5 options in my head. So we printed those cards and we distributed so that the people can vote what name they liked. So I think as a community, it really helped me. And since like that tasting session went very well, and then how I started was, because croissant making and bread making process is a lengthier process. It would take me 3 days from scratch to finish. So I would, I just developed my menu of 3-4 items, and then we circulated it through our society groups and WhatsApp groups, and then told them that, hey, we are collecting orders for these products till so and so date, and it will be supplied to you every Sunday morning based on the orders we receive. And the people were kind enough to place the orders at least 4, 5 days in advance.
No, but society groups that way, I think, is a
That's very-
very underrated marketing tool
think
to
that-
tell you the
That's the
truth.
first stage where your business.
Honestly, that was my first success point, because people were so kind enough to really push me, and I would tell them.
So I feel that women, we women or anybody, we say people are kind enough. We do not trust in our product because people are at the same time not so kind enough that the product is not good and they will buy it. So somewhere validation takes time in that, okay, I am not good enough.
I think product also equally has a lot of importance, because had it been that the product did not speak for itself, people would order once but not the second time.
But did you find that from that AGM, when the people had tasted it, when you put it now into your WhatsApp group or the society group, people were like, yes, now let me.
Yeah, so initially in the first couple of weeks, I think there were some weeks wherein I just got 1 order also, and there was some good weeks where I got 6-7 orders also, like only 6-7 orders.
I want you to tell that. So, because people think that automatically you'll start. It starts very, very small.
So I hear cases where they say that बनाएंगे short, like I just have a tray. I don't want to invest in multiple trays. I don't want to bake too much because I don't know who will buy it. So when you got 1 order, you must have baked and wasted or distributed for free.
So because initially my model was such that I circulated the menu and requested for orders beforehand so that I can prepare my quantity according to that. So yes, and of course थोड़े like बचते भी थे, so then I would
But how did
feed
you
my
stay?
family and
No, but
friends.
how did you stay motivated? Because देखो सबसे disappointment होता है कि एक ही order आया या 5 ही order आए. Because expectations, we expect कि every week. How did you keep yourself motivated?
So because this एक order आया, 6 order आए, like this process continued for like I would say 6-7 months at least. But in my head I knew कि मैंने जो product सीखा है वो अभी तक right बना नहीं है. So I was also in the process कि to make my product better and better. But it like because I think my whole goal was that I have to really make my product better. I think even till today I'm not always anytime satisfied with my product.
When you started your business, what was the driving factor? Being financially self-reliant was the key factor, or sometimes what happens when we are very from a very, very financially secured families, we do not take that as a dire need to keep a business going. So for you, it was financial independent. How important was that in your career?
So I think it's a very good question, but since when I started it, it never occurred to me that I wanted to I could take money from my father or from my father-in-law or anybody. Like it was always that it's my personal goal, what I want to do. So I don't want it to be a burden on anybody else. So I started with a very small step, as I told, that I just bought one basic oven.
But tell her, where did you get that money from? Because I love that story.
So when I got married, and in the first 1 year in our Indian families, we get a lot of shagun, right? Like Karwa Chauth shagun, Diwali shagun, Raksha Bandhan shagun, whatever. So I had collected a little bit of money in that first 1 year, and I did not spend all that all in once. I tried to take smaller steps, and the first oven and the first mixer I bought was from that money. And since then till today, I have not infused any money of my own.
Which is
And I have not asked for
fantastic.
any other money from any of my family members.
That's
That's
commendable.
great, yeah.
That's commendable.
So now coming back to your 6 breads, and how ddid that scale happen?
I'll just fast forward a little bit of my story. So in 2017, 18 and 19, this whole journey was more about educating the people what sourdough is, why is it a little hard and why is it chewy. Then when COVID hit and everything was shut. We thought that even our operation was shut, and so we started getting messages from some people that, hey, please just bake once for us, and we'll buy 20-25 loaves from you, and we'll just freeze it. So that's when it really hit me that, like, are people really consuming my bread? Because that means people started getting dependent on the bread, and they started making this product as a part of their lifestyle. And then I must tell you, like, when in the first 3-4 months of COVID, when everything was shut, it was so hard to operate. The deliveries were so hard, but it was only then when my business grew 3 to 4 times, and we were still in that small little space.
So the
But that
200
time,
square foot
so I
office.
think that time
But
the
that time
product
help
really
also must be a
no.
problem
So
because
I only had 2 to 3 other bakers with me, and I would bake all the time with them, and they also ran away to their villages. And it was, but in my head I was like, kuch bhi ho jaye, even if I have to stand and bake 24/7, I will do it. I will not say no. And because to operate in COVID was also tough, so we would do deliveries even till 12 a.m. because ek ek karke I was the only one with my colleague that we were collecting orders also on WhatsApp, communicating also with the customers on WhatsApp. We did not have a website then. We did not have a Zomato account then. Nothing. Everything was on WhatsApp and Excel sheets.
But that's amazing. You also say that you used to go to your baking area at 2-3 in the morning because
Yeah. Because bakery as an industry is that people want to consume it fresh in the morning, right? So that means the bakers have to burn the midnight oil. So I used to my working day used to start at 12 or 1 a.m. in the night, bake in the night, and then in the initial days my husband would help me deliver all the orders everywhere.
so that time also your husband was supportive that
Yeah.
my wife, newlywed wife, is baking all night.
So how fast did you grow in COVID?
COVID, I would say in 2 months, though before COVID the volume was not so much, but within 2 to 3 months the volume tripled nearly. So it was a very fast growth, probably because people were appreciating the non-commercial side of products more. They started getting more aware of what they are consuming. They were reading
Yeah.
about the
COVID-
healthier products more. So I think that really helped. And I feel that, my whole focus which I put on making the product right in the initial years really helped me then, because I always wanted to make even today I only want to make the product which I would eat myself and feed my family.
So
That's my
scale,
basic
when you
concept.
scale and maintaining quality, that's a big gray area. How did you balance both?
So I think that's my job every day, even today. So there is like a boundary between, stepping the other side. It's very easy to step the other side. You can get very, very crazy great volumes and make everything with a lot of machinery and with a lot of automation and have really big revenues. But I think to say no to what's a no is you have to have your own ethics in your business. What is it that you really want and what is it that you represent? So I think it's very important to stand like a rock there.
And so what is your tagline there? That what do you say that this is what I believe in?
So one of our major USPs we follow is that we do not want to use any chemical preservatives or anything which is unhealthy for the body. And as I said, that I will only sell that product which I will eat myself and I will feed my family.
Now, when did you find that spike then that you had to move out of that 200 square foot?
When we were just I think there was no space. Imagine in the same space you're making 3 times the volume. On the same table you're putting your laptop also. On the same table you have to pack your bread also. On the same table you have to eat your meal also. So I think that was when we decided that if we don't move out, we won't be able to continue supplying. And because the volume was increasing month on month, so it was September 2020, peak COVID time, when we moved out of the smaller space to a bigger space.
And when did that big explosion happen? Was it because you found distribution partners or what was it?
So I think after COVID, people were more aware of the product. The acceptability was very good. And so the demand really rose.
So from
And-
outside your society also?
Yes.
What was the competition there at that time?
So I think
Even from the beginning, when you started, who did you look at your competition in India?
in India for sourdough breads there was no competition.
As we all know that.
Yeah, I think I when I put sourdough bread on the menu, it was people asked me
What is sourdough bread?
bread,
I
and
remember.
there was a segment of people who must have traveled abroad before, and they knew about the product, and certain expat communities they knew about the product. So, and when you get a new product to your country, you are very unsure yourself because we don't belong to that culture ourselves. And I also needed validation in my whole journey, whether I was doing the right thing or not. So anytime, like any customer of mine who knew what the product really was when they must have had it abroad, so they would, if anybody would come and tell me, "Hey, I really like your product, this is exactly like how I had in so and so country," so that would really keep me motivated, and I
Yeah,
had
I am-
sense that whatever I'm doing, kuch sahi ho raha. So that really kept me going always. And I also got criticism in this journey. Everything is not worthy. There was a lot of criticism that आप हमें पत्थर serve कर रहे हो, आप हमें rock serve कर रहे हो.
Yeah, because if you leave it out too much, the
No,
day
when you get a sourdough bread at home, you needed a specific knife to cut the bread.
Yeah.
It is not something that
Everybody would try cutting with their
regular.
were there times that you thought, "Bas ho gaya, let me just quit"? Because especially when you see those bad comments.
How many SKUs you are making now?
We have around 70 to 80 SKUs today.
How many?
70 to 80.
70
70. Yeah.
to 80 SKUs.
Yeah. Today, but
And most popular ones?
so I think in a sourdough, our olive and rosemary stuff is very
good.
common, and for in our soft bread category, our buttercrust milk bread is very popular amongst the kids, and in our croissants, our almond croissant is the classic one, which is really like.
And your collaboration with Blue Tokai, how did it happen? And
So
what change did it bring?
I think it was a big game changer in my journey. So when I had done my apprenticeship in the US, so that was when I learned how to have black coffee with a little dash of milk. Se pehle, I didn't even know what cappuccino was, what latte was. I only knew frappuccino. So when I came back to India, I googled that where I can get a good coffee. So then this name came up on Google, Blue Tokai Coffee Roasters, and they only had a cafe in
the
Delhi
Saidullah Izaj.
in Delhi back then. So I went there. This was before I started anything, after I came back from my apprenticeship. So I went there. I had a black coffee, and the name also Blue Tokai Coffee Roasters, because coffee roasters was a term which I had only seen and heard of outside. So by then slowly I was also developing, trying my hands on the product, and I had just made my Instagram page. I only had 2 posts on the Instagram page. So I'd gone to their cafe, put a story of the coffee and 1 cake, and then I think that's all where it all started, because I think the industry was at the verge where people didn't know that we will need artisan bakery stuff, but I think the market was ready for it. It was that point.
And collaboration helps because both the product marry each other very, very well. It's
Coffee
like,
and good bakeries.
So when you got that distribution, did you see a huge ramp up? Now, did you have to change any of your processes?
So definitely only making on order or making your product available in certain locations in a city is much easier than when you make the product available to multiple locations, and now as we do in multiple cities as well. Definitely it has been a big learning curve for me also. Like however we used to make before cannot be made the same way when we scale. You have to think about logistics, you have to think about costs, you have to think about how you can make the product consistently, and now because we have so many bakers on board in multiple cities, how the product, because it's an artisan product, it's a handcrafted product, how the product can be made consistently the same way at every location.
So you have your own kitchen or your franchise?
No, we have our own bakeries where we make everything from scratch. So we
Okay,
have 4 bakeries in India now.
Okay. Where all?
So we are in Bangalore, Mumbai, Kolkata, and Delhi NCR.
Okay. When bakers are, again, I'm coming back to bakery because this is the most common profession. You can say that women are taking it. Can you share some light on it? That how do you look at it when women are starting a bakery? What kind of how much competition? What is the scope of it?
I feel the bakery industry, if you see the numbers, it was already very big with the giants already operating in the system. But in it, precisely when I talk about artisan bakery or specialty product, I think it's just starting in our country, and it has a very, very big scope because the population is so much and people are uh, looking for healthier options and also non-commercialized options. The products which have their own taste, the products which are made with slow processes and not just in a very commercial way. They can understand the difference between, all the synthetic creams versus the creams made with real ingredients. So I think the scope is huge, huge. When it comes to women being home bakers, I really say that
I want you to be brutally honest
Yeah.
because it is going to be.
Yeah, if I can be brutally honest, I think a lot of women, when anybody asks them in today's generation, hey, what do you do? So I think just to save themselves and just to hide behind a shield, they say, I'm a home baker. And being a home baker is not wrong. It's because a woman has to look after so many aspects of life. But I feel a home baker should never think of themselves as, something small, or a lot of us, or a lot of home bakers, they doubt their visibility. Where will we be visible? How will we do? And so I feel if a home baker, if they know their product, if they really believe in their product, and they know that whatever I'm doing is adding value and is different, and they personally really believe in their product, I think the customers automatically find their way. Because lately, whatever really good stuff I've had, surprisingly, is from so many good home bakers, because they never they never take any shortcuts on ingredients, on processes, and they put in so much love and heart in the product. And I must say, like, in the cooking, in the food field, in the bakery field, the more stuff we do from our heart with a lot of love, it really shows on the product. So I feel all of the home bakers collectively, we all are adding a lot of value, but let's just do it very honestly to make a difference for ourselves and also for the community, and not just to hide behind the name that I'm a home baker.
Very rightly said.
So, if you had one message for these women, because we're seeing so many beautiful new brands being created. So, what would that be? Kind of saying that, yes, because we have role models like you, we see, at least I on Blinkit see so many new brands that are trying out all the time. What would that message be?
So, I would really say that we women doubt our existence a lot of times and also underestimate our own selves. So if we have at least, even if we have just decided our brand name, or even if we've just decided these are the 4 SKUs I'm going to make, and you physically made it, so that means the thought is out of your head. So I think 50% of the work is already done. A lot of us women just keep thinking in our head, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, and they end up losing a couple of years of
Opportunities.
and the opportunity. So it's very important to just take the first step, but keep at it. I think it's never ki main kar paungi, nahi kar paungi. If they believe in the product, there are definitely people who appreciate talent.
What is your goal for yourself for coming few years?
I think I have a long, long way to go. There's just so much to do, because each time I travel, there's a new thing which I discover, and then I really want to get it to my country. So yes, I think there's a lot to be done and a lot of new things to be introduced in the country.
And
That's my motivation.
And what is your favorite product from your 70 to 80 SKUs?
I love eating a morning bun. It's basically a cinnamon and orange flavored croissant we have on the menu.
Lovely. Thank you.